No, I don't. So you're telling about how you became interested in camels.
I can't do this now.
No, you're not doing it now. We're just talking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not true. There's a little red light on the
No, it's not.
Class?
Forget it, Wendy, sit down.
I can't. No, I can't. I don't like. I don't like this composition either. I know. I understand.
He's above that.
Oh, you
He's
can.
above
Is
that.
he? So you can't.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh,
The bones are
okay.
Yeah.
I'm so humiliated.
Don't be humiliated. Emma, I don't think that's in the shot. You're all right. It's not in the shot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's go.
Is that what you did?
No, Dee Dee, what's the story? How did you become interested?
The story. Why do I have camels?
Why
do you have
Well,
camels, Dee Dee?
Okay, why do I have camels? Because people started giving me presents of camels after I came back. That's not a camel, that's a cow. Although it has a hump, so we can
Okay,
use
I'm
that.
gonna find you a camel.
This is not a cow. This is a cow
Are
with
you
a
finding a
bump on
Camel
its back.
someplace in this house.
Camel.
Don't worry, Mom. Don't
According-
worry.
I became interested in camels. I'm not really interested in camels. I have a psychic connection to camels.
Don't we have a camel? We have a
She's not on the
camel.
interview.
You
Yes,
have
I
a
do.
camel
I do.
what?
We
Go.
have a stuffed camel that they've been eating.
Oh, a
Okay.
doggy camel.
Yeah.
All right, Dee Dee.
I have the hiccups now.
Dee Dee. The first question is, do you care whether or not they have a camel?
Yes, I would. If they have a
Do you
doggy
wanna hold
camel,
the camel?
I would confiscate it
Why?
because I want it.
Why?
Because I want all the camels I can get.
But what's so special about camels, Dee Dee?
Well, I'm going to tell the end of the story first, and then I'll go backwards.
I don't. No,
Because
you're not. You're gonna
what's-
tell the middle of the story, and then you're gonna tell the very almost end, and then you're gonna tell the beginning, and then you're gonna tell the end.
Okay. Well, the middle of the story.
I think you should start with going to art school in London.
Okay, I think I want to hear about art school in London.
Okay. When I graduated from college,
Where'd you graduate from?
NYU,
Okay.
and I had Dr. Jansen who wrote the really big book. I was in his senior seminar.
Okay, so
And
Dr. Jansen
so-
of someplace at NYU
You
wrote a
know
really
the big
book.
fat art history book that you have to have if you take the introductory course.
It's art history.
Anyone who takes an art history course gets the Jansen book.
Okay.
And I had Dr. Jansen for a professor,
Okay.
and he gave me an A,
Did
and
you-
then he
did you ma-
stole my work and he put it in his paper on
Did you
Donatello.
major in art history?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you wind up in London?
So
With
I
an art
applied
history
to,
major. I didn't even know
yeah.
you could afford to go to London.
right, so as an art history major, I applied to the Courtauld School of Art, which is like considered the best art history place on earth.
And it happens to be in London.
And happens to be in London.
Okay.
And I thought I got in. So I packed like straight clothes. I had a whole suitcase full of like going to art school in London type clothes.
What's straight? How does straight
Well-
clothes match with art people?
Well, it's not really art people, it's like very professional. It's
Oh, okay.
museum
So
people.
there are people who think they know something about art, kind
Yeah.
of. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're not like actual
I thought
artists.
I got in. And
Okay.
I went to the Courtauld
Man, what do you mean you
Institute.
thought you got in?
I thought I got a letter that said you've been accepted.
You thought you got a letter, like you
I
hallucinated
got
as
a letter and it said I was accepted to the Courtauld Institute of Art, and I went there and they looked at me and I told them who I was and they said, yes, you've been accepted for the year 1973 or something like that.
What year was it?
1969.
Oh, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
So did it say
apparently
1973
it
on the
didn't
letter?
say that in the letter.
It just
it
said
just
you're
said you've been
accepted, so please
accepted.
pack your bags and...
Well, that's what I figured. So I packed
Or it
my
didn't
bags.
say please pack your bags, it just said
It
you've
just
been
said you've
accepted
been
eventually.
accepted, and I
And
had
you
no idea
figured-
that there
and
was a waiting list. Or
You figured
something.
it meant the next August, not 4 August
Right,
later. Okay.
right.
Well,
So
I mean,
I went
that's
to
silly you.
Silly me. But I got off. I took this flight that came into the airport in the middle of the night, and everybody on the flight got on a train from the airport, went into London, and the next thing I knew, I was like standing there with 2 or 3 other people, and we all looked at each other and said, we don't have a hotel to go to. We don't know where we're going. What are we doing? It's the middle of the night.
Right.
And this guy comes along and
Some
says,
guy.
some guy walks up and says, hey man, hey man,
Hey, man.
you need a place to crash.
Hey, man.
Yeah, hey man, like that. And we said, they were all really nervous New York type people, and they were saying, oh, I don't know
What?
if
New
we
Yorkers tend to be nervous, I heard about
Yeah,
that.
they think everybody's out to get them, and they all said, well, I
Well,
don't
if
know.
everybody is out to get them, by the way.
And I said, you know what, there's 4 of us, come on, it's all right, let's go with this guy. And we all went, and the next day, all the others left and went and got hotels, and I stayed for 3 months.
With the guy.
Yeah, and we basically had a deal.
What was his name?
Michael Trevelyan, and I would love to know if he's alive. I would really like to know if he's alive, because he's very gay. He had this wonderful gay 80-year-old man lover who gave me a teacup that Queen Elizabeth drank from in his antique shop. And he was so cool. And Queen Elizabeth, the real Queen Elizabeth, drank from the teacup that I have. And I was so excited about it.
Do you still have it? You didn't let your
But
son
I'm
break it
really
or anything?
scared for Michael, because that was like the heyday of AIDS.
Yeah.
And it was before people knew about it. So people weren't.
But he was with
it
some 80-year-old guy.
But he was with other guys
Okay.
too. I mean, the 80-year-old guy was just a really special friend. But this was like 1969, and nobody knew to be careful yet.
Yeah.
And he went through all those years when nobody knew to be careful. So I think about him a lot. I really don't know what happened to him.
What's his name again?
Michael Trevelyan. Can you
Michael
look him up on the
Trevelyan.
internet?
Maybe you can.
Maybe I can. I mean,
Okay.
like Michael Trevelyan anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try.
Yeah?
We'll work on that when we have it on tape.
That
Or
would be-
Michael Trevelyan.
Yeah, I'd
And
really
we'll
like
try
to.
to try to look it up, and you'll
I'd
spell
love
it for us later.
Okay, I would like.
All right.
I would like to. Anyway, so I stayed there, and the big what it was is there was an empty apartment upstairs from his, and he had the key. He was supposed to be showing it for his landlord, and he gave me the key, and he said, "Well, just stay here until we rent it." And then he said, "But I won't show it." So I got this free apartment, and in exchange for that, I tutored him because he was taking tests. I mean, this isn't really part of the story. This was Michael.
Okay.
And that was another story entirely. He was taking the test to go to university. He was from Canada originally and hadn't gone through the British system where you can't have to take certain tests.
Yeah, I hear when you're
to
from
go to-
Canada, you're pretty slow.
Well,
At least that's what they say in South Park.
I helped him a lot. I remember that. Okay, so Michael was my friend. I stayed with Michael for 3 months. And by that time, it was like September or beginning of October. And I didn't,
69?
of 1969. I got there in July, August, September. End of September, it was turning into October.
So even this is when you have already realized that you're
I
not
realized that I'm not in the school. What am I going to do?
When did you realize that, actually?
The first week I got there.
Oh, okay. So you're just chilling
And-
after that.
Yeah, after
You're
that.
like, God damn it! And you're like hanging around London, like taking
Exactly.
bong hits and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. That's
pretty
what
much
that's what London's
what I was
about, right?
doing.
So yeah.
we were having a good time. It was just
This
hanging
is
out.
summer of '69, actually.
Summer of
So,
'69.
yeah.
It was good. We went to the Isle of Wight festival and saw Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff, and it was really good.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
We sat in a tree. We didn't get tickets. We just climbed up a tree on the outside of the.
Sounds like
festival.
tickets to me.
It was tickets to me. It was tickets. Hello,
Is this the
folks. It
last
was
beer?
tickets.
I'm gonna be pissed if this is the last beer.
You're drinking all their beer?
I know I am, and I'm gonna be pissed if it's the last one too.
How many of you have? You'll talk his head off on the way home.
I know. That's his problem.
That's his problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the mommy who doesn't have to deal with it. You just have to
Okay.
like finish the interview.
Okay. I have a long way to go, so I really
That's
better
okay. That's why I'm
skip-
hoping there's another
I
beer.
should skip over the Isle of Wight and all of that.
Well, I've never heard of the
Anyway.
Isle of Wight, so I don't think that whoever watches this needs to either.
Okay.
So-
Well, it was England's festival to rival Woodstock. It was like
Did
a
it
big,
really rival Woodstock
yeah.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah, it really did.
And you went,
It was a big
or
thing.
you sat in a tree or something.
Well, we went and sat in a tree.
Okay.
Yeah, we camped out and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, it was.
So
it was
while you're
fun.
camping out, you're hanging out with this guy Michael, or
Did
no?
Michael go to the Isle of Wight? I think I went to the Isle of Wight with Howie, and Howie comes into the story, which is how I got to the camel.
Okay. Well, tell us Howie then. What's
Okay.
Howie? Is he a
Well,
boyfriend, or is he Michael's boyfriend, or
He's
is he
nobody's
anybody's boyfriend?
boyfriend. He's
Is he-
nobody's boyfriend.
Is he anybody's girlfriend?
He's nobody's girlfriend. He's nobody's boyfriend. He
Okay.
was
Is
a
he?
nebbish.
What?
He was a nebbish.
Sorry, I'm not Yiddish.
That means a nothing.
Nothing at all.
He was a real nothing.
Nothing at all. But he figures into the story
he was,
anyway.
He figures in the story.
Despite the fact that he's nothing.
Yeah, like a nerd. He was really but he was
Oh,
a
do
hippie
that.
nerd. He was
Okay.
a hippie nerd.
Okay.
But he was really obnoxious. He
Well, you
turned
see-
out to be obnoxious.
It's true. This sounded like me.
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Long hair doesn't fool anybody.
No.
Okay. Well, so why?
I can't even begin to describe what Howie was. He was such a bastard.
He's
But that came later.
him being a bastard.
Yeah, him being
Okay.
a bastard came later.
So what happens when he's still a nice guy?
Okay. Well, he wasn't really a nice guy, but I was walking down the street in London thinking, what am I going to do? I have to get a job. I had $600.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go home. And I
Okay.
wasn't going to be going to school. And I didn't have any marketable skills. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I didn't have a sweater. And it was getting cold out. I mean,
Okay.
I had a light sweater, but I didn't have a jacket or anything.
Right.
I just,
So you're like thinking, I don't really want
I
to stay
had-
inside when I don't even know if I'm gonna have a place.
there's a big bug up there.
That's okay. That's
There's
not,
a bug!
There's a bug. So what? Keep on with this. What kind of bug? Oh, hey, that's a no big deal kind of bug. Keep going.
All right. Usually in my family, when you yell there's a bug, somebody comes and takes care of it.
I took care of it. I helped you ignore it. Go
Okay. I was walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden there is Howie. And Howie was a friend of a friend. I had met him once in New York. Howie was a friend of Debbie. Debbie was a friend of mine.
on. Okay.
And I really didn't know Howie, but I recognized him. And I said, aren't you Debbie's friend Howie? And he
I
said,
said, yeah, but I'm a
he
prick.
said, yeah, man, you want to go to India? And I said, what? He said, I'm driving to India tomorrow. You know anybody who wants to share gas?
What?
And I said, what? And he said, yeah, man, I'm going to India and I've got this van. I'm looking for people who want to share gas. And I said, well, I really don't have that much money to get me all the way to India and live and everything, but I wouldn't mind going. If you don't find anybody, I'll go with you. He said, yeah, I'll let you know in the morning. The next morning the phone rings and he says, hey, this is Howie. You want to come? We don't have another rider. And anyway, you'd be really good at Borders. I said, what does he mean?
What's
it mean to be
Borders
really
like?
good at
Like
Borders?
as in the bookstore that didn't exist yet?
Like when we're crossing Borders, they put me in a dress in the front seat. And I looked like a regular person.
As opposed to like some hippie.
Like instead of some hippie. Yeah, like I
Okay.
could look really straight.
All right.
Because I had all my straight clothes there for the
Right.
going to school thing.
Right.
Stuff. So he said, we could really use you anyway. We'll put you in the front seat and you're going to look really straight when we're crossing Borders. So I decided to go. And we took off like that day. I had like not even a day to prepare or pack or anything. I just went and we started driving. We went across the English Channel and we went into Germany. First place we went was to Heidelberg, where he knew a bunch of revolutionaries. And we stayed with these revolutionaries in Heidelberg that had just done some kind of action. The Red Dot. Anybody who knows about the Red Dot? It was the Red Dot, Heidelberg. I don't know, I think it was the beginning of the Green Party. That's possible.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was. I
Okay.
think it was the beginning
All right.
of
I'm
that.
starting to respect
Yeah.
them actually. Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, they are cool.
All right.
And that was the very beginning of that time. Okay, so we just start going across Europe. We go into Switzerland, we go to Austria. At one point in Austria, Howie went ahead because he wanted to go somewhere, and I don't even remember the details, and we had to catch up by hitching a ride, and I think we eventually ended up taking a train.
All
So
right.
we couldn't get
Didi.
there. I'm going way off.
Okay, Didi,
Now.
here's what we're gonna do: is we're gonna skip forward to you are in India.
We
No,
never
no.
got to India.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to skip forward
To you are not in
to
India.
we could skip forward to the Bulgarian border
Okay.
where we didn't get across because of long hair, and they made us all walk back to the other side of the border and cut off the hair. Everybody in the van had to go and cut their hair off, or else
Okay.
they wouldn't let us cross the border. That was kind of interesting. Then we got
So
to
you did.
Istanbul. Yeah, I mean the boys, not the girls. They didn't care about the girls having long hair.
Okay.
But all the guys had really long hair, and they wouldn't let them cross the border unless they cut off their hair. And they just did. They just said, well, what the hell, okay. And they cut their hair
Why
off,
not?
and then they let us across the border. And that was to give
They
some
didn't make them
bulk.
shower.
No. No.
Europe.
But they made them cut their hair. Cut to Istanbul.
Okay.
In
We're in
Istanbul.
Have you been to Greece yet?
No, that comes later.
So much later, it's not in the
I
story?
mean, we go through Greece, but it's so much later, it's not part of the story. We go through
I thought
Greece.
Crete was part of
No,
it.
Crete comes after.
Oh, okay.
Hey, he's not even in the interview.
All right.
Oh, wait a
Okay.
minute. Yeah, no, Crete is coming.
Okay.
But first we go to Istanbul.
Okay.
First we go to Istanbul, and that's where I realized that Howie actually thinks he's going to drive across Turkey with drugs in the car.
What, drugs or
Drugs.
drugs?
Any kind of drugs.
Actually, you're in Turkey, so yeah.
In Turkey, no drugs. Drugs equal death penalty in Turkey. There should be nothing. You don't say, oh, it's just pot. No drugs in Turkey.
Right.
And I realized that Howie wants to do this. My brother had just spent 6 months in jail in Turkey
For what?
for murder. Not funny.
No, it's just
Really not
no. It's
funny.
like 6 months for murder and like
it?
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, he was in an automobile accident and somebody died. And in Turkey, that is considered murder. And he was in jail in Turkey for 6 months before we managed to get him out by diplomacy, basically. We contacted certain diplomats and made certain bribes to people in the town where there was a boy who was killed, a child, and it was really horrible, but more horrible is spending 6 months in jail as an American in Turkey. Another
Definitely
aside.
worse than dying, for sure.
Worse than dying. My brother was totally whacked out of
Yeah,
it.
if you're American, yeah, definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
worse than dying.
Very
for sure.
bad news. Worse than dying, definitely.
6 months. I mean,
So
God.
I knew that I did not want to go through Turkey with Howie. So I said, bye-bye.
So Howie's going his own way.
Howie left. That is the end of Howie. I mean, I didn't even, there are a lot of
Is
little
that the end
things.
of Howie?
That is the end of
Did
Howie.
Howie end?
I mean, I don't know what happened to
Okay.
Howie. I have no
Alright.
idea what happened to Howie. But
But he's
with
a
Howie
prick
being a prick, yes, he definitely was, because at one point in Yugoslavia, we left our passports behind at the youth hostel, and we were like 2 hours past it, and he wouldn't drive us back. And he made us find our way back to the youth hostel, get our passports, and meet him back further along towards Bulgaria. So he was really not a nice guy. Really not nice. Okay. From Istanbul, I find out my brother is living in a cave in Crete. And I
Naturally.
decide I'm going to go meet him. So I go to Crete. This is already November. And I stay in my cave in Crete, November, December, and part of January.
January 1970.
Okay. Now it's
This
1970.
is sounding a lot less like the fun of summer of '69 at this point.
Yeah, well then I go to Israel for a little while
Sure.
and live on the beach in Eilat. And then I decide to go back to the caves because there was some guy I wanted to see. And the guy that I'm meeting back in Crete, by the way, the cave next door to mine contained Carrie, of the Matala song by Joni Mitchell.
Okay.
Joni Mitchell's song called Matala, and it's Carrie come out of the cave. And Carrie was in the cave next to mine.
Okay.
Okay, so just to put it in a time reference there. Anyway, Alan, the guy that I had gone back to see, had decided that he was going to go to India himself.
So,
So-
what is India like the destination? for
Everybody wants to go to India because you're going to become wise and you're going to give up all your earthly goods and you're going to, like see the light.
Okay.
Or
Well.
find a guru or whatever you're going to find in India. We were really going to Srinagar to live on a houseboat. I mean, that was the final goal, was not just India, but to go live the high life on a houseboat in Srinagar.
Sounds holier than thou.
It was supposed to be really fabulous. So we set off. Now we're getting up to the story.
Okay.
And we fly in a little airplane with beach chairs.
Beach.
It was like an empty shell of an airplane. They had beach chairs in it. It was really weird. And we fly to Izmir on the coast of Turkey. And from there we start taking local buses from one town to another. And local buses don't run on a schedule. They run when they're full, which means Like when the roof is full, when the bus is full, and the aisle is full, and the roof is full. And full includes goats, chickens, and people, and whatever
And
other
byproducts
livestock.
thereof.
And all, exactly.
And
all
anyone who can pay fare, including goat shit. Okay.
I mean, it's just the bus, when the bus is full, then the bus leaves. So you can't like get a schedule and say, I'm going to take the bus at 6 o'clock. You just say, there's a bus going to the next town, and you get on it and you wait till it fills
so it
up.
probably leaves sometime that day, probably.
It'll leave sometime that day. Yeah.
Okay, that's better than waiting all month.
We go all the way across Turkey in that manner, and we're really exhausted. And we get to the border of Turkey and Iran, and you have to get out of the bus on the Turkey side, and then walk to the border station on the Iran side. And when we get to the Iran side, lo and behold, there's a great big BMW with Maryland license plates. And we say, wow, we're going to get a ride. And
Nope.
we just kind of hung out next to this car, and finally this guy comes out and comes over to the car, and we say, hi, can we have a ride? And he said, of course. He turns out he's some kind of Persian prince. He's a prince from Iran who's been studying in the United States, and has just brought this car back, and he lives in Tehran, and he'll drive us all the way to Tehran. And so we pile in, we being me and Alan and two other guys who we met at the border, who were also standing there ogling this car. And they were from Australia. We all get into the car and take off in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And we're driving along, and I was lying down in the back seat. Everybody else was sitting up.
Okay.
And all I remember is a big funk. And if you have a camel, like being high up with legs like that, this is on the camera, huh? A car goes under it like that, and the body of the camel smashed in the roof of the car.
So he's trying to go under a camel?
He went under the camel.
There you
The
go.
camel was in the road, and he hit the camel. He went under the camel's legs, and the body of the camel smashed because they're really
Wait,
tall.
did he realize there's a camel?
No,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
he couldn't. Well, it turned out he had just left Istanbul the day before. A trip that had taken us a week he had done in one day. We found an empty bottle of amphetamine in the car after that.
Oh,
We realized
okay.
that this guy was high as a kite. He's driving along in the middle after driving for 24 hours or something, and he's driving through Iran in the dark where there's camels in the road. So then the camel flips over the car and is lying in the road screaming. The roof having caved in, everybody got hit in the head.
Except for you.
Except for me, because I was lying down. So they all have concussions of some sort, and I had that feeling of total calm. And the camel was screaming, and they were all moaning, and my reaction was like, oh, I have to take care of everybody. Okay, I can do this. And I said, okay, everybody, you're going to start talking to me. I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to stay awake. I don't want anyone falling asleep. You're going to tell me the stories of your lives, and we're going to get out of here. So we kind of pushed the roof up a little bit. We were able to,
Enough
push
that
the
they can
roof
fit
up
their heads in.
so that they can fit
their
it back
broken
in the
heads.
car. I didn't know how to drive,
Okay.
but there wasn't much else to hit at that point. So we decided that I would be, since I was the one without any head damage, that I would drive the car, and we would just get to the next place where there was some kind of people. So I start driving. I mean, basically, if you're in the middle of the desert, it's like bumper cars. You don't really need to learn how to drive. You just drive, and you kind of stay on the road. So I started driving, and then all of a sudden, the prince, I wish I remembered his name. I have no idea what his name was. I always thought of him as the prince. Says, no, we have to go back. There were skis on top of the car, and they'd fallen off.
So he
And he
lost
wanted
his
to-
goddamn skis.
And he wanted to go back and get them. And when we got back, the tribe that owned the camel was there, and they surrounded the car. And they started shaking it. They had bayonets and sabers, and they were waving them around, and they're screaming something. And all of a sudden, the prince yells to me, get down on the floor. I mean,
So
he
you
said
did.
it in no uncertain terms, so I did. And he put his feet on me. And it turns out that what they were yelling was, we want her. We'll take her in return for our camel. A work animal of equal value. Someone who can carry and fetch and do work for us. I go, oh no, no. We finally, I don't know how we arranged it, but through this guy who spoke the, whatever the nomad language was, Farsi or something. Yeah, Farsi.
Same as everybody else.
We worked it out so that they would stay around the car so we couldn't take off. And we went to the Soviet border, which was a couple hours away.
A couple hours at that speed.
Yeah, like really at camel speed. This tribe around the car going to the Iran and Soviet border, where they decided they would let the soldiers there be mediators and figure out how much we were worth. So we did that, and we went to this border and decided that I was not worth as much as a camel, because a camel can carry a much heavier load than I could carry. So we had to give them other things. We scraped together whatever money we had, and we opened up our bags and gave them blue jeans, and we finally bribed them enough. We gave them enough additional stuff to make it worth
With
their
a camel.
worth a camel. And we also said, and you can keep your camel too. You know, you can have the camel hide, and you're gonna have your camel. So
What
we
were you
made.
gonna do with a camel at that point?
Yeah, I didn't. I never even thought about keeping the camel. So it turned out that they were exchanging me for the camel, and
But it wasn't you, or was it?
it
So
wasn't
it
really
wasn't.
me. It turned out we
So
just
you
gave
gave
them
them-
all of our goods. We gave them all our
It's
stuff
to cover both you and
to cover
the
me and the
difference.
me and the difference.
Okay.
So that was pretty much it. I mean, after that, they thought I was crazy because I kept yelling, chai, 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 which is tea, and they'd give me a cup of tea and I'd pour it over one of the guys' heads.
I think you were crazy too.
You would think I was crazy, but I was so together. I really knew what I was doing.
Well,
I
I'm
was
sure you
thinking
thought
that-
so, but what
that
the hell were you
tea-
doing with a bunch of tea?
Tea was boiled water with tannins in it, and everybody had cuts in their heads, and I was sterilizing them. I was
Okay.
try to clean the wounds. So I'd keep
Okay.
asking for cups of tea, and I would pour it over their heads and try to clean their heads off. And they just couldn't have this crazy lady who was pouring tea on everybody's head. That was,
Wait, did you explain to the Soviet soldiers that they had concussions?
we didn't have a language in common.
So what were they doing being mediators in the first place?
Well, they had a language in common with the prince, so the prince could explain it.
But you couldn't explain to the prince that they had this whole concussion thing?
Well, yeah, I sort of did. I said, I want to clean up your wounds until we get someplace where you can get medical attention. Which we did. The next day, we went and got to Tabriz or Jarbaz or one of some.
Soviet Union.
No,
Iran.
Iran.
So you turned around at the Soviet border?
Yeah, we turned around. We couldn't go into the Soviet Union. We didn't have visas. And he was headed for Tehran. We went to this next little town where the prince got a roll of nearly opaque plastic, sort of translucent, not transparent, but translucent plastic. And he wrapped it around the car a couple times and said, all right, let's go. We said, oh, thank you, bye-bye. And we decided to go back to our bus
Strategy.
yeah, our bus means of transportation. Anyway, that's really all there is to it. I got as far as Afghanistan.
What year were you?
And
what
this
year
is
were you
now
now?
we're like April of 1970.
Okay.
We're heading into April. We go to
This is the
camp.
same time as my dad is in Afghanistan, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I knew him.
I hope
We went
not.
to-
He
we
was
went-
Peace Corps?
Oh no. We went to Kandahar, And then we went up to Kabul, as it were. And we're just hanging out a lot. But in Kabul, my stomach finally gave out. I was so sick. I was so gorgeous too. Thank you, camera. I was so thin. I was the skinniest thing you ever saw. I was never that skinny again in my whole life. My stomach was absolutely not functioning at all anymore. And I just wanted to go home.
So at this point, you are willing to go back to the States.
Now I'm willing, because I want to go to a bathroom. I want to sit down on a toilet.
So maybe leaving London wasn't so swift after all, naturally.
Well, I don't know. I just had a lot of adventures along the way. I mean, we had some good adventures.
Yeah.
But at this point, there I am in Kabul, and we ran into two other people that we knew from the caves. Or
Let
one.
me just interrupt you right now because I know
Yeah.
you're in the middle of the story to explain to the camera the reason why you're wearing the scarf is because we got a bunch of lobster stains on your shirt. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Lobster stains on my shirt.
Right, okay, sorry.
And the scarf is covering them up, and it's
Exactly.
also disguising my big stump. And, okay, we met somebody that we knew in the caves, and he had hitched up with a girl who turned out to be the daughter of a vice president of General Electric. And she was on her way to India to become wise and had decided that she was really going to get rid of all her worldly goods, and she gave me an airplane ticket from Athens to New York. So all I had to do was
get
find
back to
my way
Athens.
back to Athens. And I just had just about enough wherewithal to figure out how to do that. Did I have money? I'm trying to remember if I had money. I remember wiring my parents and telling them I was going to come home. And I got back to Athens.
Ergo, you got back to New York.
And it was really weird. In those days, they weren't quite as strict, because I got on the plane as Karen von Steinmeier, even though my passport didn't say that. And it was really very nerve-wracking, because we thought they would check, but they just wave you through. They didn't care about anything. There was no security then at all.
Right.
And I came back. And then somehow, I guess having
What about
heard the
Iceland?
story,
What about Iceland?
oh, Iceland.
What, did you go to Iceland in the meantime?
That was a different trip.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Iceland was a different trip. Iceland is an aside where I ended up there thinking I was going pony trekking, but I forgot to have money. I had spent all my money.
Whoops.
Whoops. And just by the skin of my teeth got back on the flight that I was on and said, I can't stay here, I don't have any money. But basically, having come back and told this story a couple times, people started thinking it was cute to give me camels as presents. Like, oh, you were traded for a camel, you've got this camel karma, here's a camel present. And then slowly but surely it turned into a collection. And then I started collecting them myself. And now I have over
300.
we said 400 last time, I
Yeah.
think. I have many hundreds of camels around the house. Camel jewelry, and camel teapots, and camel boxes, and camel pillows, and stuffed camels, and camel cookie cutters, and camel soap, and name it, I got it. I got camel stuff all over the house.
Do you have a camel?
And it's going to say, I have a big camel out in the backyard, a big concrete camel, but I don't have a live camel. I did take a camel training course at the Bronx Zoo, and I learned how to get a camel to sit. You go like this and you say push, and rise.
Doesn't it
They
have to be
just taught us
trained
rise.
to.
No, it worked. This was at the Bronx Zoo, and then when I went to the San Diego Zoo, I walked over to the camel pen, and I got up really close to the camel, and I went kush, and it sat down. So it must be a universal thing that they use to teach them. It means sit in Farsi or something.
Well, I'm saying the camels aren't born knowing this. You have to train
No,
the camel
but
to do
if
it.
they're trained to do it.
But if they're trained
They
to be
usually-
zoo camels, then hey.
You're right. Zoo camels are usually trained to give camel rides or something. So they're taught how to sit or something. But I know that when I said kush to the camel in the San Diego Zoo, it sat down. It was like, whoa,
That's kinda
this is
cool.
really neat. Anyway, I no longer wear camel earrings. That is my one thing I will not wear.
Because what? It's too
Because
crazy?
when I go to school, when I'm teaching, if I'm wearing camel earrings, the kids come up and grab them and say, oh, let me see that, and they pull on my ear. I'm
Right.
scared they're going to rip my ears off.
Right.
So I don't wear camel earrings, but I usually am wearing some camel item, but I'm not right now. I usually have a necklace on with a camel on it.
But not while you're eating lobster.
Not while I'm eating lobster. That would be sacrilegious. And that's basically the whole thing. It's not that exciting.
So perhaps maybe at some point while we're trying to finish up this conversation, Daniel should just cut off the camera in the middle of all of it.
Yeah.
So do you think of anything to say while Daniel's trying to get his fat ass up and do that?
Yeah, well, while Daniel's trying to get his fat ass up to do that, I would like to say that I will accept only gifts of fine camels from now on. I don't want any more crappy camels.
What's a crappy camel?
Crappy camels are those plastic 50-cent jobs that we got at the Miami Aquarium.
So you want like a 75-cent job or
But
something?
yeah, I
Yeah.
want gold camels.
Yeah, okay.
I want camel teapots.
Okay.
I want camels on clothing.
What, like those camel t-shirts that
Cam-
RJ
Oh,
Rosen
and
like?
I've got a whole bunch of Joe Camel stuff, and that is going to be a collector's item. I'm really glad I got all the Joe Camel stuff that I could get when we went we were in Winston-Salem, and we went to the Camel store, and I bought everything Joe Camel, and that stuff is going to be such a big collector's item now that he's not allowed anymore.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
wait a few more years.
really, I'm going to hold on
It's
to
all,
that
it's all
stuff.
the rednecks are done with it, right?
Yeah, they're going to wear their camel t-shirts out. I'm
Yeah.
keeping my camel t-shirts in a drawer,
Yeah.
and I'm really going to
Keep
have,
little like cedar chips so they don't,
Yeah.
so the animals don't get to them. Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think my Joe Camel stuff is going to be a real collectible, and my camel Beanie Baby is already a collectible.
That's something you want to sell, right?
I'd sell it in a heartbeat
For the right price.
for the right price.
6,000 or 7,000, right?
No, I wouldn't. It
Eight,
doesn't have its,
9.
it doesn't have its tag. I mean, I got
sorry,
this stupid
5.
thing, and I thought it was just a camel, so I ripped the tags off because that's what you do. This was before Beanie Babies were famous. This was like the first batch of Beanie Babies before anybody ever heard of them. I just saw a stuffed camel. That's what I thought it was, and I ripped the stupid tags off.
And now, Beanie Babies are worth.
Now, they're worth a whole lot. I mean, I've got 4 other Beanie Baby camels with tags, but they're not from the rare period. Not from the very beginning. But they'll probably be worth
So
something.
hold on to the one you have then for a while longer.
Oh yeah, I'll hold on to everything. But
Yeah,
hey,
don't sell the one
you're
on
supposed to
eBay
be
unless
turning
someone gives
this
you 8 or
off.
9 grand. I know, but he's lazy.
Yeah, he thinks this is interesting, but it's not.
Of course it's not, dude. If I like you and a camel, I mean, for Christ's sake, who cares about camel, right?
Well, I could tell that the difference between a dromedary and a Bactrian camel,
I've
which
done you an
everybody
interview,
really
for sure.
ought to know. If you take the letter D and you put it on its side, that's one hump, and that's a dromedary. And they're the ones that are domesticated, D for domesticated.
No,
And that you get all over North Africa and the Middle East. And if
Did I
you put
mention I was done interviewing because
Yeah,
I don't care about
if you-
dromedaries?
But you should know this. And then if you put a B on its side for Bactrian, that's 2 humps.
And why do camels smile?
Because there are 100 names for Allah, and man only knows 99.
Does woman know the other one?